Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, Earthlings. I hope you've got your cup of tea ready. Let's talk tea today. Christopher Boosey is the subject of a Daily Mail article today. Link in the description. Oh boy, the piranhas are out. I don't think he has any idea what's coming his way. It's a long article. It covers quite a lot about, well, a lot of what all of us already know about Boosey. He's not happy about it. I'll read out his latest tweet in a minute. But the one thing in this article, and it's a very long article, and I think you'll enjoy reading it, is one short little sentence, which I think he should be very, very worried about. I'll just read it out to you and see what you think. He lives in a workaday town in New Jersey with his wife and son. That's not the sentence I'm referring to. It's the next very short sentence that says he also has a daughter. Now, I am definitely not one for going after people's kids. Absolutely not. I know how that feels. I've had people do that to me and Graham. But that one short sentence, unfortunately for Christopher Boosey, that's the dagger in the whole article. That was the bit that stood out to me. Now, to explain about Christopher Boosey's daughter, and I'm going to put this in as delicate a terms as I possibly can. I believe she's about 28 years old. Very attractive young lady. And she has an online career. Let me put it that way. And her career is, I believe, mostly on Twitter and on Facebook. She has a following of a very specialist taste, let me put it that way. And Wally did actually send me one of her latest videos last year or the year before, and I said to Wally, please never send me anything like that again. I don't want stuff like that on my phone, because what this sort of circa 28-year-old does is she has an app where she can put it over herself. I mean, Boosey talks a lot about AI and photo-generated this, that and the other. Well, this woman, and at 28, 29, she's a woman. This app gives her the appearance of an 8-year-old. I'm not going to be more explicit than that, other than to say it is the oldest profession in the world for a 28-year-old to do. However, the added wrinkle of placing an app over oneself to make oneself look like an 8-year-old is catering for a particular audience, shall we say. I have no idea what Christopher Boosey thinks of his daughter having that as a living. I don't look at things like that. So the Daily Mail are letting him know that they know he has a daughter. And of course, it is truly and wholly shocking. It is extremely explicit from what Wally sent me. Now, Yankee Wally, for those of you who don't know, because there are some people who don't know, but a lot of you do, Yankee Wally was one of the original Mexiteer community, and she did do a video covering Christopher Boosey's daughter, which she subsequently took down. Now, the one thing Wally didn't explain in the video, and she put up a few images, but they were pixelated and stuff, she didn't explain clearly that this is a woman in her 20s who puts an app filter over herself to depict herself as an 8-year-old. That was the one thing. And Christopher Boosey just went wild. He went after Wally. He said, right, this is personal. So it's a sore point for him. It's a sensitive issue for him. I can understand that. I really can. Thank God, none of our kids are involved in anything of that nature whatsoever. So let's have a look at Christopher Boosey's reaction. to this article. He tweeted about an hour ago, "I stopped posting receipt threads to focus on Spoutable, but it appears the Daily Mail and their journalists want me to embarrass them. Fine, stay tuned." Nothing since has been forthcoming. I hate that word receipts. I hate it. It was that Javanka Jadinka, whatever she's called, Meghan's friend, who went on something with Philip Schofield and Holly Willoughby the day after the Oprah interview. What's she called? Jadinka. And she said, "Oh, Meghan spoke her truth. She's got the receipts," which we've yet to see. The kind of people who use the word receipts, I think, are the kind of people who have got fuck all. They've got nothing, and they've no intention of ever producing anything, because I never saw Meghan's receipts. People who actually have some substance to say, or some evidence, as I like to call it, refer to it as evidence or proof, or backing up what they're saying. But the kind of people who use the word receipts and speaking my truth, they are full of hot air, bluster and nothing. So if I was Christopher Boozy, I would be pretty worried, but I don't think he's intelligent enough to have realised that that little sentence in there is deeply threatening and deeply worrying. And yes, I do believe the Daily Mail will go there. I do. I'm certain of it. Whoever has written that, it's someone called Tom Leonard. I think I've got the name right. Forgive me if I haven't. The Daily Mail journalist. Let me see what the name is, because I do like to give credit. It's written by, yes, Tom Leonard. He's clearly done a lot of research on Christopher Boozy. And finally, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. I mean, if you're going to troll people, you know, oh my God. You know, glass houses, Boozy, glass houses. All Boozy, he tweets how marvellous he is, how perfect he is, how he never puts a foot wrong. He never needs to apologise. Whereas those of us like me, I say I get loads of things wrong. Double check everything I say. I could be full of shit. I could have got it wrong. I'm Fiona. I'm not perfect. I'm an idiot. I didn't do well at school. You know, what? He's so arrogant. He's so, oh, I'm perfect. I'm perfect. I'm perfect. Oh my God. Well, I'm guessing as his daughter, I don't know how old he is, just got to be in his 40s, I suppose. If his daughter's 28, 29, something like that. In fact, I think she was 28 when Wally did that video, which was a couple of years ago, so she could be 30. I'm guessing that he was very, very young. He was a young dad. I have no idea what the backstory was there, but I mean, why pontificate to the world? And don't just tweet, "Oh, I'm gonna do receipts." Bloody produce it. If you've got some evidence, if you've got something, do it, say it. Put your money where your mouth is, Boozy. So he is going to get this in shitloads and rockloads, I'm certain. The Daily Mail are going to make it their business. I can see from the most recent articles, they are going to make it their business to make him the world's most famous troll. That's how it's going to go down. And the guy just doubles down and doubles down. And he's got all these enemies in the past, you know, who are going to come up and they're going to say stuff like, you know, my cryptocurrency, where did that go? What was happening there? How come you've been accused so many times over the years of having bot farms? And the irony is that he says he set up Bot Sentinel to combat misinformation and disinformation, which is very much the point that the Daily Mail article made, that he is one of the, if not the biggest perpetrator out there on the internet, spreading misinformation and disinformation. And his tweets are just utterly vile. In fact, last year or the year before, I did videos about him saying, you know, if you're trying to start a business up and you want clients, you want to come across as professional, you want people to look at you and think, this person knows what they're doing. And he's there tweeting all childish nonsense and just horrible trollisms at people who in the hell in their right mind, oh, well, maybe Meghan and Harry, because he did star on their Netflix docuseries, hate to rub it in, of which they had full editorial control. I'd love to see those words, Daily Mail, really push it home, because yes, there were two production companies, theirs and another one I never heard of before and haven't heard of since, but they had the final say. Don't tell me anybody else had the final say. Meghan and Harry are the owners of that production company, and they chose to have him on their Netflix thing. And I'll tell you something else about that Netflix thing. They named 3 YouTubers, one of which was Shallon Lester, I'm not sure about the other 2, as examples. But those were not the YouTubers that they were going to feature originally. And Boozy said it himself, because Shallon Lester was, I don't know if she's still suing him, but she was suing him for the stuff that he said on Netflix. He said that he was not talking about those YouTubers. He said he'd never heard of Shallon Lester, and I actually believe him. I think that's one of the few truths that have come out of his mouth. He was actually talking about Murky Meg, according to Taz, and yes, Yankee Wally. But for some reason, someone on the cutting floor decided it was not a good idea to put those 3 forward. So they changed them to 3 other YouTubers. I'm sure of that. It was always going to be about Murky Taz and Wally, and we all know it. And that's who he was talking about while he was being interviewed. And then, of course, when they put Shallon Lester and the other YouTubers in, if you ask me, Shallon Lester should be suing the production companies and not Christopher Boozy. Because he was, I believe him on that, he wasn't talking about those particular YouTubers. So isn't that interesting? And believe me, the Daily Mail, there's always, with these British newspaper publications, there's always a little sting in the tail in there, in the article, and that's a big sting. That's more of a dagger to the throat, that they want to talk, they know he has a daughter, and they are going to talk about it, believe me. So him tweeting, he's probably thinking in his little pea brain, well, that's inaccurate, and that's inaccurate, and I'm going to tweet, and put all the corrections right in the article of this and that and the other. He's probably not realised, well, he will when he sees this video, and believe me, yes, he does watch them. He's blocked me on X. I've never had any communication with him. I have to use a third-party app to look at his things. Omid Scobie has blocked me on X. So for sure, they both watch these videos. So Christopher Boozy, you know, I would be careful. In fact, there's the story of the wide-mouthed frog, which I've told many times, you know, frog hopping through the jungle, gobbing off with a big wide mouth to a load of people, a load of other animals, until he meets a snake who says he eats wide-mouthed frogs for a living. And to which the wide-mouthed frog goes, ooh, doo doo. That's Christopher Boozy, a guppy with a big wide mouth who's going to shrink those lips very, very soon, because the Daily Mail, oh God, they really do know how to draw blood. And also, I quite admire the Daily Mail. You might find that surprising because, believe me and my family have not always got on with them. But I have admired them on occasion in the past. In fact, years ago, before we moved down here, I read about a story of a yacht that sailed into Gibraltar called the Djinn. Now, you can Google this. I'm sure I've told this story before. Anyway, the Djinn, it was 3 men that were employed, I think, to transport it from somewhere, I don't know, Caribbean, maybe, to Gibraltar. They were 3 retired merchant bankers, so I mean very wealthy gentlemen who, you know, just doing it because it gives them something to do in their retirement, and they obviously loved sailing. So they sailed into Marina Bay in Gibraltar with the Djinn, and they were greeted immediately by the Customs and Excise, who had a jigsaw and knew exactly where to cut a hole, and lo and behold, they found a 1/4 of a tonne or somewhat of cocaine, much to the horror of these 3 gentlemen who'd been employed for boat transportation, who went, oh my God, I didn't know that was there. Bear with me. So they threw the 3 gentlemen in jail, I believe, or I can't remember if the men went to prison in Gibraltar or if it was somewhere else in the Caribbean. I can't remember, but you can look this story up. And I'm sure I'm getting some details wrong, because I was just in Brighton reading this story thinking, oh my God, what a nightmare. You know, you paid to do a boat transportation job. You turn up and I mean, you haven't even had a chance to clear passports yet, and there's the customs, and they've got a jigsaw, and they know, you know, how did you know to go into that particular specific part of the boat? Anyway, 1/4 of a tonne of cocaine was put into a police cell in Gibraltar. Now, 1/4 of a tonne, that's quite a lot, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. Well, it's going to be bigger than me, isn't it? 1/4 of 250 kilos. That's a lot. Anyway, they put this in this police cell and they locked it. The British police flew over to Gibraltar about 9 months or so later. They got the key, unlocked the cell, and it was empty. All the cocaine had gone. Where could it have gone? Anyway, well, you make your own conclusions of that. Like I say, I'll dig out a link and I'll try and put that in. The Gin Yacht. Anyway, so these poor 3 retired merchant bankers are languishing in prison. I think one of them was released, but there were 2, I think it was like 2 years they were kept in prison. And the good old Daily Mail stood by them and kept saying, how can the drugs disappear from a police cell? How did they know to jigsaw into that particular part of the yacht? And they lent on it and lent on it and lent on it. And I was so proud of them. They cleared these guys' names. They were released. What a nightmare for them and their family. So there are times that the Daily Mail, I am super proud of them. They do the right thing. They stick by the story and they're gonna take Boozy down. Trust me, I've seen this before. I'm no PR expert, but I'm pretty good at sizing up the Daily Mail, and I know when they are. I can hear the music for Jaws. Dun 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 dun. Now I know there's still African parks. There's this Diddy Squiddy whatever. Some person's just been raided, and apparently there are illegal documents with Harry. I know all that. I know. But that is not my focus for today. In fact, my major focus was always the injustice of hypocrites like Meghan and Harry who have got the cheek, quite frankly, to go up on stage, talk about online kindfulness, mindfulness, compassionateness, and all the rest of that bollocks. And there are trolls like Christopher Boozy, which they chose to star on their Netflix show. And he is one of the biggest trolls out there, and he works with accounts like Sarah Data and Pagan Trelawney, and now apparently there's Baroness Brooke. And it's just despicable what is going on out there. There are journalists like Camilla Tominey who have been savaged. In fact, a few years ago, I remember watching her Twitter, and she was just like, oh, she's not a lady who swears, but she was like, oh, just fuck off. And if you're going to call me the C word, at least use the C, don't use a K. If Camilla's watching this, apparently my kids assure me that when people use the K to represent the C word, it's adding emphasis, apparently. That's street language, I don't know. There Angela Levin. There are loads of celebrities, loads of journalists, and of course the royal family, and especially the Prince and Princess of Wales. There are loads, and this never happened before Meghan Markle married into the British royal family. So what the hell is going on? In the meantime, thank you very much, Tom Leonard of the Daily Mail, and I look forward to hearing what all you guys think about it.